we've talked a lot about this in between media this season. There's going to be curveballs coming your way.
Hate's a strong word. I dislike Kirk Cousins more than probably any other quarterback in the league.
I get a little bit of that rookie-itis,
I would have said, I would love some of what you're smoking.
Even though I'm straight, I'm still stuck between an interpretation, what it all means. Can I make a difference for something different? My mind in prison, then I saw the vision. Played the field, it's no competition. Found success through the repetition. If it's impossible, stick to the mission. I'm just cruising through on my way to get it. I found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. Found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
So one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.
Do what you can to become a better person, to become a better human.
All right. Welcome in, everyone. It's Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, Week 18 edition. Guys, as the new year arrives, the door closes on a lot of people's fantasy football seasons. Some of us were still fighting for that fantasy football title. Whether you have won, whether you've lost, whether you drew this past weekend, or whether you're still fighting in your fantasy football championships, we are back with you here. I'm Seth Woolcock, joined by Nate Polvo and Scott Rainier. We're going to be breaking down everything we saw over a wild, sensational Week 17 and how it applies to not just Week 18, but the 2022 fantasy football season as well. Nate, Scott, how are you guys feeling today? I'm feeling a little bit of a mixture of a winner and a loser coming into Tuesday here.
I'm feeling good. Oh.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling good. I wrapped up. I won a championship game last night, so that was awesome. I didn't make it to as many as I would have hoped, but I got at least one, and that always feels good. So I was happy about that. And it is kind of nice. I mean, I know I do actually have a stake in Week 18. I have a double week championship, so I'm going to be paying attention, and I'm going to be available to help anybody else. That I don't judge anybody for being in a Week 18 championship. Do you? You do you. But it's also nice because I know that breath and that break is coming. Obviously still going to be doing tons of stuff in the off season, but just that seasonal grind.
Oh yeah.
But it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. Like every year since I started playing, I get to the end and I'm like, whew, but I'm also like, damn it, because no more fantasy football, like actual fantasy football till next September. So,
I'll send you some trades, Scott.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of
we got
dynasty
plenty to
stuff
do.
Yeah,
I'm feeling great after this weekend. I've got 2 that are wrapped up that I won out of the 3 that I was in. I've got a Debbie league. I'm actually up against Kate from Ball Blast in this one. And it's our first year of the league. And I went 0-7 to start the season. And then I won my last 7, kind of a Miami Dolphins situation.
Nice.
And I'm in the championship, and our commissioner, Shane Barrett of Fantasy Collective, accidentally made it a 2-week championship. It was just supposed to be this week. And I would have won if it was just this week by like 6 points. But we're carrying into next week. But I'm hopeful. I mean, I got a pretty good roster, except I have Baker Mayfield as my quarterback, my super flex. No, not nice. He's not playing. So, but good overall, man. And, like Scott said, it's kind of bittersweet, but we have so much going on content-wise and with our dynasty leagues, and I've got some messy rosters to clean up. So I'm looking forward to the break. It'll be nice. Got plenty of other stuff to do. Yeah,
I've got a couple leagues where the commissioner forgot to turn on first-round buys, and it really bit me in the ass.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's been
sorry, Scott. We've never done first round buys.
I know. I'm just giving you. I'm giving you crap.
But like ESPN and Yahoo didn't always give you the option for it, so that I remember anyway. Or I'm just a crappy commissioner. I don't.
No, that's not what I was saying at all.
Yes, it was, Scott. It's fine. I get it. It's fine.
Guys, I'll be honest. Like, we're pretty open on the podcast. I feel like super bittersweet today. It was a pretty emotional weekend. I did get two titles. I won our office league. I won our Hard Hogs IDP league, the first IDP league I've ever been in. Got that title over fellow In Between Media member Elliot Hicks. That was fun. And then I made the classic, tinkered with my lineup before kickoff. I sat Jared Patterson over DeAndre Swift. Ended up costing me a chip in one of our Penn All-Star League. But I mean, I talked about it on Sunday morning. It is what it is. You can't go back. I can reflect on it. I know for next year. But yeah, that's kind of a staple of how this fantasy football season has gone. And that bittersweet feeling definitely carried into last night, Heinz Field. A lot of my friends were at the game. I was invited to go to the game, but just couldn't make it out due to work. But Big Ben, man, last game at Heinz Field. I don't know if you guys saw the end of that game, but he walked off and almost did an entire lap around the stadium, just giving fans high fives, and he just took it in, man. And it was a lot, man. I mean, that guy's been my quarterback since I was 6 years old when I went to my first Steelers game. It was his third ever start, second at Heinz Field. Wow. So, to be here now talking to you at age 24, 17, 18 years later, it's a pretty eerie feeling to see your legend walk off like that.
I can identify, man, because that was John Elway. He was drafted by the Broncos the year I was born. So he was my quarterback until he retired. Wow. Yeah, won 2 Super Bowls. He's the only thing I knew for that organization.
Yeah.
Which is a real heartbreaker when that's all you've known. And then you go on to all the years between him and Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
But hopefully that doesn't happen for you guys. It seems like you jump pretty well from quarterback to quarterback. So good luck.
Thank you. We'll see. There's a lot. There was some Cordell Stewart years in there that were tough, and Tommy Maddox that I very, very slimly remember. So we'll see how it plays out.
Cordell. Oh, I should have worn my Cordell jersey for the show tonight if I just thought about it.
Guys, we do have a pretty packed episode here. Like we said, we're going to break down Week 17, what it means for Week 18, what it means for the 2022 season as well. If you're new to the show, if you want to follow us, go to IBT_media. You can find the site, the show, everything we're doing. We're still doing content 7 days a week up until Sunday. That will be really the final day of that, but we'll still be here all off season. We're going to have the podcast through the month of January. So we're going to continue to break down what's happened this fantasy football season. We're going to do a little ranking summit, bring our guy Dave Fantasy in, talk about our ranks, where we went right, where we went wrong. Kind of everything that you need to know for this time in the offseason. I'm sure we're going to talk about a little dynasty at some point this offseason as well, just because there isn't a lot when it comes to redraft. Guys, if you want to follow us as well, you can find me at between_SethFF, Nate at JackFF, and Scott at MunderDiflinFF. Guys, let's go ahead and get into Front and Center, once again presented by our friends over at Monkey Knife Fight. And this is an amazing time to be at Monkey Knife Fight, to be playing on that platform if you haven't played it so far this year. Guys, they have fantasy golf, fantasy NASCAR, fantasy football, fantasy basketball, all the sports, a lot of the sports that we talk about here at In Between Media. So if you want to be over there at Monkey Knife Fight, I highly recommend you go over there. They got some great bonuses to double, triple your money, 5 times your money at times. So use the promo code IBT. It's a free $5 game, 100% instant match deposit up to $100 when you use that promo code IBT. Guys, this is the great time to do it. You might be out of your fantasy football league. The season might be over, but there's always a good time to win some money. Guys, let's go ahead and get into Front and Center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between.
How about you come to the place
try to have some fun.
Ain't gotta worry about knowing not
what it means.
Come and
Give me another, cause the night is young.
At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and Center.
Woo! All right, guys. So we're going to break down Week 17, the winners, the losers of it here in Front and Center. There are a lot of league winners out there, and there are also a lot of league killers as well. Guys, I want to start by none other than the new hotness in 2021, Jamar Chase. 11 receptions, 266 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the rookie. He totals out for the season so far 79 receptions, over 1,400 yards, and 13 total touchdowns for the rookie. Guys, it was an amazing performance from him, from Joe Burrow, his quarterback, 30 for 39 for Mr. Burrow himself, 446 yards, and 4 touchdowns as well for Joe Burrow. First player ever to go back-to-back here in 2 games with 400 passing yards and 4 TDs. Guys, it looks like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to be making history for a while, and they did it here for your fantasy teams in Week 17.
Yeah, dude, Jamar Chase just the last 2 weeks, it was most impressive was that first touchdown to me because it was a short throw and he just boom and was gone. I think we can put to rest the whole they should have taken Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
Our discussion, I think we're done with that now.
I think we could have been done with that, honestly, probably at week 3 and 4. And I was one of those guys who was really on the Sewell train there.
Me too.
So, I mean, pie on our face, but man, this connection is electric. Jamar Chase is an absolute hell of a player. I don't know if I've ever seen a receiving output like that for a year 1 or maybe even a year 2 player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love this for the Bengals. Seeing them succeed. Shout out Will Feltner. Our buddy Will Feltner is a big Bengals fan.
Yep.
But the Bungles, they've been a kind of a laughing stock for a while, and I like stories like that where teams, find their stride. And I mean, Burrow, he had the nasty injury, but he seems to be finally healthy. And I mean, both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins had the blow up game the week before.
Yeah.
And I mean, not just like 100 and touchdown, like a lot of yards. But Jamar Chase is on a different level. To me, that game, watching that game and watching him dominate it, it just reminded me of like 100% healthy, absolute prime Julio Jones. That's what it reminded me of. Just mossing guys on the sideline, reaching up, catching it over them, catching it on the left sideline, and then just piercing and outrunning everybody. And what I noticed about that touchdown is similar to Derrick Henry in my eyes. It's just effortless. Him outrunning everybody. It doesn't seem like he's running very fast. It's the same with Derrick Henry. Yeah. So I just think I think the Bengals are actually set up pretty well here. I mean, Joe Burrow has gone completely bonkers the last 2 weeks, showing what he can do with those weapons.
And big games too. Big games.
Well, and I mean, in the fantasy world, for him to do that in championship week will never be forgotten by people that had him ever.
Yeah. Or people who faced him.
Yeah. He's now QB5 on the season after these 2 performances as well. Just a great story there in Cincinnati. And honestly, Scott, I think I don't know if there's a player I can compare Jamar Chase to, because even he has a better nose for the end zone, it seems like, than Julio Jones.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big player comp guy. It was just kind of the utter domination of the game, like he did, not necessarily the touchdowns, but the yardage, just the best player on the field without any shred of a doubt. That reminded me of some of those 300-yard games by Julio.
Yeah, and against Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, that's a big feat to accomplish. So hats off to whoever had Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Just a heads up, though, I don't know if Burrow's going to play here in Week 18, guys. They already wrapped up the division, which is great for them. I'm an AFC North guy, so hurts a little. But if I had to see someone win it, I'm happy for Joe Burrow. I love the cigar in the mouth. Shooter at the end of the game. That was fun. But just be aware. I don't know if they're going to play in Week 18. I don't expect them to maybe need all their starters here. The Browns haven't looked very good lately, so they might be playing for seeding. But just have that in the back of your mind if you are relying on the Bengals this week.
The only problem with Jamar Chase is that last year we had Justin Jefferson, and then Jamar Chase somehow topped his rookie year.
Yeah.
And so next year, when the number one rookie receiver or whatever, we've been spoiled. We've been very spoiled by a number one rookie receiver the last 2 years.
Agreed. Yeah. Guys, we've also kind of got spoiled by another rookie receiver this season, at least at the end of it, and that was Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Seattle. He goes off for 8 receptions, 111 yards, and 1 TD. Has a highlight reel play on a handoff, takes a draw to the house, add it all together, 35.4 PPR points for this kid. Guys, he has had 4 straight games of 11 plus targets. And during that time, since week 13, he has also been the wide receiver 2 behind only Cooper Kupp. Like, this has been absolutely extraordinary. Guys, we talked a lot about him on Ross St. Brown in the offseason. We saw this from him. I took him in a lot of redraft leagues, like with my last pick or, maybe off the waiver wire after week 1 or before it, but just didn't really pan out until week 13. And what we've seen since then, it is a different type of player, man. It has been fun to watch.
Yeah, I got to watch him because Seahawks fans. So those are the games I watched the most close. I hadn't really seen him much this season. I hadn't watched a lot of Lions football this season.
I've watched way too much of it. I'll be honest with you.
Me too.
But I mean, noticeably, that dude, he's a baller, and it's 5 straight games of 11 plus targets, 8 plus receptions. My cousin in one of my home leagues, just repeated as champion and definitely rode the St. Brown train all the way to the championship. So I honestly, I'm not much of a Devy guy, or, don't have a lot of experience evaluating and ranking rookies. But I wasn't super high on him. I didn't see him doing something like this, especially the way he's done it with Goff and Boyle, and doesn't matter which quarterback has been in. He's put these games together. When Galladay left, Detroit needed a number 1 wide receiver, and it kind of bounced around all season. We played the waiver wire with Quentin Cephas and Khalif Raymond and all these people, but it's St. Brown.
Nate, you were hot on him multiple times this season. You were. Every waiver wire column, it felt like at least twice you highlighted Amon-Ra, if not, and then once Khalif Raymond, we thought maybe he could be the guy too.
Well, yeah, it was confusing. It felt pretty clear-cut to me when Cephas wasn't hurt, but once he went down for the season, it was like, okay, what's this offense going to do? I thought it was going to be Khalif Raymond at first. Not a knock on Amon-Ra, because I've liked him since before the draft.
Yeah.
However, I just thought Raymond was the guy. He seemed to be kind of tuned in with Goff, and it turned out it was Amon-Ra, and it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's just talented. And he's a wide receiver 1, I think, on that team. They're not going to go out and sign anybody. They let Kenny Golladay go, and we all thought, what are they doing? They let Marvin Jones go, and we were all like, what are they doing? They're not going to have anybody to catch the ball for Jared Goff. It's because they had Amon-Ra and they believed in him. I'm high on him going into next season. I think this Detroit team is going to be better. I kind of believe in Dan Campbell, and I think Amon-Ra is like a linchpin in that offense. It's helped that Swift hasn't been healthy.
Yeah.
Him or Hawkinson. But I don't think now at this point he's established what he's capable of, and it doesn't matter anymore. He's a top tier wide receiver in the NFL now.
Yeah, I think, there's a sliver of a doubt because this onslaught has coincided with Swift being out. And I'm not really judging much on Swift's return this past weekend.
Oh, of course not. Still
played the majority of the snaps, though.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and with Hawkinson out, but like, to me, it's like, yeah, okay. So if those players are healthy next year, okay, maybe he doesn't average 12 targets and 9 catches a game. Maybe it's more like 9 targets and 7 catches a game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't knock him too much for that. I think, like you said, Nate, he's shown whether hand him the ball, throw him the ball all different places on the field.
Devos Samuel Jr.
I was just about to say he reminds me.
No, that's going a little too far.
He's a smaller guy. But the way he plays, it's kind of like a hybrid between a slot receiver like a Cooper Kupp and a Devos Samuel.
Okay, I'll take that.
I think it's what a lot of people wanted Tavon Austin to be out of college. That's kind of what he reminds me of, but he's got a little more girth to him than Tavon.
Girth.
But guys, it's been awesome to see it. We'll assess what it means for dynasty rosters, what it means for redraft next season, throughout the offseason. I do want to highlight Cooper Kupp as well. guys, he has been absolutely outstanding this season. He goes for 695 and 1 against Baltimore here. 138 receptions on the season, over 1,800 yards, 15 TDs. He could break some records here very soon. We'll wait to discuss that for when it happens. But, guys, he's been above 30 PPR points 6 times this season, above 20 PPR points in 13 of 16 games. Worst performance was 11.4 PPR points. I mean, this season might be the best season I've ever seen out of a fantasy wide receiver. The only one I can think of that is similar, Calvin Johnson, when he had his breakout season. But like even Devontae Adams last year, he kind of busted in the fantasy playoffs. Cooper Kupp did not. And then even Michael Thomas, when in his 2019 season, didn't have the sure upside that Cooper Kupp had. Nate, what was your takeaway, man, from just this entire season from Cooper Kupp and then capped with another solid performance?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to know who the 7% of people on Sleeper are that didn't put him in their starting lineup last week. Like, are you nuts?
Inactive users, yeah.
Obviously, it had to be. Look, he's the number 1 overall PPR point scorer on the season.
Wow.
That's nuts. Obviously, he's wide receiver 1 in standard and PPR. He's a number 12 overall standard. If you take away his PPR points, he's still number 12
That's
as
insane.
a wide receiver. He's ahead of quarterbacks, running backs that you would think would be ahead of him. This has been an outstanding season, and it's exactly what I think most people thought was going to happen for him with Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford's a gunslinger. Would have been nice to see Robert Woods get more involved before he got hurt, and he was actually starting to. Then Woods going down. Obviously, Kupp was going to get more volume.
Yeah.
It escalated. And then they brought in OBJ, and it didn't hurt him because he's an elite receiver. I mean, he's the best receiver in the game right now. I don't think you can question that. And I think for probably the next 2 to 3 seasons, we can expect probably not what he did this year, but he's going to be PPR wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 on the season every season for the next 2 to 3 seasons. It's exceptional. And I love what I'm seeing from him. The talent. And it's just, and I have him on a lot of teams if you couldn't tell from my excitement. So,
yeah, I mean, there's been some discussion the last few weeks about the definition of a league winner, and he would be one as far as where you drafted him. And I mean, I have him on a couple teams, and it's just every week, no matter what. Like I think had 1 or 2 down games, maybe.
He had
and
3 games below 20 PPR points.
Yeah, and that's the thing in PPR. I mean, even those games were just because he didn't score a touchdown, but he still had 11 catches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a perfect storm matching Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp. I've always loved Cooper Kupp because he comes from a tiny little school called Eastern Washington University up here in my state. They're I think the Red Eagles, and their field is actually red. It's ridiculous, but it's completely
That's
red.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So I've always rooted for him. I mean, I think a lot of people thought he would be good with Stafford, but no one saw this. No one saw this come. I mean, he's almost 100 points of the wide receiver, 100 points ahead of the wide receiver too.
Yeah.
I want to look back and see I want to put together some data as to who has been the farthest gap between the two at their position that particular season, but he's easily going to be that biggest gap this year from all the different positions, almost 100 points ahead.
It's crazy.
It's just, I mean, just is consistently, and it's the thing is he has a super high floor, but he was consistently near his ceiling. It seemed like most weeks, which is just ridiculous.
And the crazy thing here is I know it's hard to think back this long ago, but last season, I won a dynasty league by benching Cooper Kupp for Cole Beasley. He was pretty awful towards the end of last season. I ended up trading away in that dynasty league. I mean, I got Leonard Fournette and Mark Andrews, so it was okay in the deal. But, I mean, last season, he was kind of hard to trust at the end, but obviously it looks more like it was always an issue of Jared Goff rather than Cooper Kupp himself. Maybe we were robbed of even more years where Cooper Kupp could, we saw it the year he tore his ACL, how elite he was, or when he came back from the ACL tear. I believe that was 2019 at a top 5 wide receiver year. But outside of that, Cooper Kupp could have been a guy who came to this league and had consistently over 1,000 yards, could have been a top 10 PPR wide receiver for his whole career. So it's exciting to see. I think Matthew Stafford still has a lot left in him. I'm gonna have to clean up the pick six game a little bit, but other than that, I'm excited to see what we can get from Cooper Kupp and Stafford here.
Stafford's gonna have to clean up that forcing it to OBJ in triple coverage with Van Jefferson wide open 20 yards down the field.
OBJ is bad news.
I won't disagree with that at all.
We also don't need to get into that right now.
No.
Same game, guys. Mark Andrews, once again, he's QB proof. 6 for 89, no touchdown in the first time in a while, but finishes the season with 99 receptions, 1,276 yards, and 9 TDs. Still could add to that total, of course, here in week 18. But, I mean, this is absolutely insane. Scott, you and I did projections, man, and I just did not see this. I mean, I was high on Mark Andrews. I liked Mark Andrews, but I did not see this coming. This is more than 400 more receiving yards than he's ever posted, 33 more receptions than he's ever had, and right around his TD total high for his career. But this is going to change the tight end conversation. I think that's where we can kind of leave this here. Mark Andrews, he was a league winner to me. I mean, he didn't have the huge output here in week 17, but he got you there. He didn't burn you here in week 17. People are going to have a big conversation next year. Is it Waller? Is it Kelsey? Is it Mark Andrews? But I think right now, if you look around, I know TMR last week, he released his top 50 players for 2022. He has Mark Andrews a spot above Travis Kelsey.
Wow. I did not see that.
Yes,
I love all of this because Mark Andrews was one of my bold predictions at the start of the season. And my bold prediction is that he would finish as the tight end 3. So I was not even high enough on him because he's tight end 1. He's 24 points ahead of Travis Kelsey right now. So barring something crazy, he's going to finish. Go ahead.
Well, with four games without Lamar Jackson, that's like about it too.
The thing that's so crazy about this thing with Mark Andrews is like even looking at it now, it doesn't necessarily make sense why he's been so good. They have thrown the ball more than in the past, but they still are a fairly relatively run-heavy team. You know, you've had a mixture of Huntley and Josh Johnson in one game and Lamar Jackson. But, I mean, it just hasn't mattered. I'm still kicking myself. I drafted Lamar in Scott Fishbowl. And then I can't remember what round it was, but I was about to stack Andrews with him. And Andrews went like the pick before me. That could have changed some things in Scott Fishbowl. But, yeah, I mean, I wrote about him in the Mondays a few weeks ago. You know, the thing about what he did this season is, you know, it's above his averages, but as far as kind of like expecting some sort of regression potentially, it's sustainable. It's not some huge outlier when you just look at kind of what top 12 tight end, what top 12 and top 6 tight ends have done. It's not like he scored 20 touchdowns and he's not going to be able to he's done it in all facets of fantasy scoring metrics.
Nate, you love tight ends, bro. Just asking you on the spot here. Would you, if we're drafting today for 2022, is Mark Andrews your tight end 1 off the board?
Yes, he is.
Any other thoughts here on the guy?
So here's the thing. He's all they've got. I mean, really, he's the only one that they're willing to throw the ball to because so look at the last 2 games, 9 targets, 5 catches, 8 targets, 3 catches for Hollywood Brown, 44 and 28 yards. And he's not getting red zone looks. Rashad Bateman, I mean, kind of the same deal. He had 5 targets against Cincinnati, 4 catches, 26 yards. Then he had 10 targets and 7 catches against the Rams last week, but he only turned that into 58 yards. They're not getting the high-value targets that Andrew is getting because Andrew is the money player. And John Harbaugh is a smart coach. And John Harbaugh is going to build on what they did with Mark Andrews this season and wrap that offense more around that. He might have a better year next year than he had this year because they're realizing what they can do with him, and it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, I mean, he's ascended into that group, that top group, because, you know, he also stayed healthy this year.
Which is huge.
But I mean,
way more snaps too, though. Like we'd always seen because of his diabetes issue that he never played like close to full snaps, and it definitely elevated to a different level this season.
Well, what's crazy too is like some of these games, like where he had he had a 16-point game where he had only a 68% snap share, but when he's on the field, he's getting looked at because he had 10 targets with a 68% snap share. So he's just such a big part of that offense. They can rest him. And then when they roll him out, they're going to throw to him 4 or 5 times, 6 times, and then they're going to give him a break. Then they're going to throw to him 4 or 5, 6 more times. I don't see that changing. They've been successful with it. Why would you change that?
I love that there's another tight end in that group. It just
too.
It makes the tight end landscape better. It makes you, if somebody like Waller or Kittle falls because he's there, then that's good for people in their fantasy teams. And I think Pitts joins all of them next year too. There is not a more positive touchdown regression candidate in the league than Kyle Pitts.
We will talk about Kyle Pitts here a little bit later on, guys. Let's round out our winners discussion, just quickly talking about a couple of league-winning RBs. Rashad Penny, first of all. Scott, you highlighted him in your column earlier this week. 25 for 170 and 2 against the Detroit Lions. He's been RB2 since week 14. Sony Michelle, drafted in the same draft as Rashad Penny, both above Nick Chubb, who has obviously been the superior running back. But Sony Michelle proved to be a capable running back, 19 for 74 and 1 here in week 17. And then he's been RB7 since week 14. He's been stellar. He goes into free agency here, unrestricted free agent here. So we'll see what if he gets brought back to the Rams or if he signs elsewhere. And then Devin Singletary, another player that even if you would have asked me at week 10, is there any shot, Seth, that Devin Singletary is a league winner? I would have laughed in your face. 23 carries, 110 yards, 2 TDs against Atlanta, RB3 over the last month of the season. I mean, this is changing the way I'm looking at running backs moving forward. Honestly, there's just so many of these guys showing up late in the season because they're healthy. They don't get a lot of run earlier in the season, so they're healthier than other people. And then, people that we maybe have written off, like Sony Michelle, like Rashad Penny, Devin's. I mean, this is just uncanny. It was uncanny.
Well, I think.
Yeah,
go ahead, Scott.
All right. Obviously I'm a Seahawk guy, so I think we can officially say after Nick Chubb's pooper game last night that the Seahawks made the right choice. Yeah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, Penny's a guy I've always rooted for. I understand why when players, especially, like a first round running back, when they struggle, the longer they struggle or the longer they just don't produce fantasy points, it doesn't matter why people start to just lose interest and you know what I mean? But as a Seahawks fan, I've always just been or a fan of any player really. It's such a bummer when people keep getting hurt. It just sucks. You just imagine how hard they work and they're all ready to go. In college, I was set to play baseball as a freshman in college. And right before the season started, I broke my arm. And I was going to be the starting left fielder, and it was just heartbreaking. And that was just some random Division III school. This is the NFL. So to see Penny do what he's done, with all three of these guys, one thing that they have taught me with Sony Michelle and Devin Singletary and Penny is I really need to improve my it's kind of like take lock, except it's like reverse take lock. It's his name's Devin Singletary, so I can't ever like him. Even if new information is presented, I can't like him. Rashad Penny can't stay healthy. Sony Michelle, I have, not that I could have predicted all three of these guys were going to do that, but I just think it's really important. You just have to remain objective as the season progresses. Because as we saw this year, more so than pretty much any year, is what we thought in week 1 and what we know now are so far apart from each other. And it's that way every year. That's, this year it was ramped up because of COVID and because of a seemingly, higher percentage of injuries, but every year, So now what it means for the future of these guys, it's hard to tell. I don't know where Penny's going to be next year.
That's the thing with all these. You got a couple he's a UFA, right? Penny's also a UFA. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So I don't. The $4.5 million they saved by not doing that, we'll see if that would have been a deal or not.
Yeah.
I mean, Singletary will still be on the Bills, so that'll be interesting. But I could still see them adding an RB. But I mean, Nate, did you ride any of these guys? Were you riding at Singletary or the other two?
Rashad Penny won me a championship. Thank you very
You
much.
were on Rashad Penny twice this season too, Nate. You highlighted him once, I think, in like maybe week 7 when he first came back from injury, and then you highlighted him again in your column. Another reason you should be reading Nate's column each week for your waiver wire pickups.
Yeah, I think I highlighted him ahead of week 16, and he's had 19.5 PPR points and 32.5 PPR points since then. Here's the thing, and this is why I liked him coming into the season. I drafted him a couple of places. I held him in a couple dynasty leagues. I had him. Pete Carroll was very clear that he wanted to run the ball more. He talked about it all offseason, and while I know that sometimes that's coach speak, this is a team that needed to run the ball more. Everybody saw it. It's something Pete Carroll loves to do anyway, so it was weird that they'd gotten kind of away from that. And Rashad Penny was going to be a huge part of that. If he was healthy, then he wasn't healthy, then he was healthy, then he wasn't healthy. But they didn't – by the time he was fully healthy, I mean, we're talking about week 14 when he finally saw over 50% of the snaps. They didn't have any – they were DJ Dallas and Travis Homer because Alex Collins was hurt. And I had a feeling we were going to get to see him actually like kind of take a full load. And if he could stay healthy, we'd see what he really was. Oh, he's had 137 yards, 135 yards, and 170 yards. He's scored 5 touchdowns in that 4-game span.
Yeah, it's been.
I think it's clear that he's a really good running back if he can stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be dicey because he went out as well with Sony and they played for checks, and I just don't think with the money that Seattle's giving Chris Carson, unless Russ does leave, then it probably
Russ is gone. Sorry, Scott.
I don't. You can never say that for certain, though. You can never say that for certain. We thought Aaron
I suppose
Rodgers
you can't.
was gone at the beginning of the season, but. Guys, it was very fun if you had these players on your team. I was very thankful that we highlighted them, multiple of them, in last week's episode, the couple episodes the weeks before, and some columns as well. But unfortunately, there was some losers here in week 17 as well. Maybe none bigger than Antonio Brown and what we witnessed. Leaves the game, is cut in the middle of the game. It just came out today by Ian Rappaport that he didn't think he was 100% healthy. But the trainers thought he was, and he didn't want to play. So Bruce Arians said, if you don't want to play, you're off this team. And, some teammates, Mike Evans, we saw him trying to calm him down. Didn't really work. He left the game, took off his clothes, put his shoulder pads on the ground, threw his gloves, threw his shirt into his undershirt into the crowd, out of all things. Leaves with just 3 receptions, 26 yards. Does jumping jacks through the end zone. And Nate, the craziest thing about this is we literally last week talked about, I went on a rant for about 2 minutes about how AB does not deserve to be in the NFL. And this isn't a victory lap because I didn't see this coming, but holy shit, man, that was effing crazy.
So I think something that I said on Twitter and to a few people who wanted to argue with me for some weird reason about it. This dude has been coddled, and he has been what's the word?
Enabled.
He's been enabled. He's been told time after time that, well, yeah, don't do that, but also it doesn't matter because you're so talented.
Exactly.
It's like John Hamm in was that 30 Rock, where he's so beautiful that it doesn't matter that he's the dumbest doctor on the planet. People swoon for him because he's pretty. Well, Antonio Brown's a pretty talent. And somebody else made this comparison, but it's very true. And we see this in athletics, in the entertainment industry, where these people are basically carried along because they have something to be milked from them. Antonio Brown, I don't think, is any different. He has an entourage full of people who coddle him and take care of him and tell him that everything he's doing is great.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is part of that. And at a certain point, like, you can't, how do you figure out on your own, like, oh, I do have I need to do something about this. Like, I'm not right in the head. I'm making poor decisions. When everyone around you is telling you that you're making great decisions. And he just ran off the field and he quit on his team. And I hope he gets help. I was out on him starting this season because he's a live wire.
He's
Seth,
a
you're
liability.
muted. Yeah, live wire, and I hope he gets the help he needs. It's
Yeah,
really
for me-
sad. And that Vontez Burfict hit, like if we want to go back in time and look at that, I mean, could we be looking at like real-time CTE? Because he was out cold, man. That's one of the most vicious hits I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, whatever he's dealing with, I hope he can deal with it. I hope he can address it. I hope he has some people in his world that are honest with him. I'm not going to speculate on too many things with him. I was also, from a fantasy perspective, I was out on him. He was one of my topics in my most recent Pulp Fantasy, mainly just because he lied about being vaccinated, which is also not. It's not healthy, but it's not healthy behavior. Forget the vaccine and how you feel about it. It's just not healthy behavior. So it was actually the bubble episode of 30 Rock with John Hamm. It was actually Aaron Rodgers that was compared to that episode recently by the guy.
Was it Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember the guy's name, which was apt. But Antonio Brown fits that as well. And again, I mean, I don't know what's being said behind closed doors, but
Of course.
but regardless of whether he thought he was healthier, whether he thought he was not healthy enough to play and they disagreed. I mean, I'm sure there's fault to go both directions in this specific instance, but regardless of that, like the way he reacted is not the sign of a necessarily of a mentally healthy person. So I mean, basically where I'm at is I was out on him fantasy wise from the start of the season. So I don't really have anything to say there. But if he's dealing with something, whether it's something from football, I just hope he can get help.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I agree with you guys. I think it might be the end of his NFL career, though. I mean, he's had too many chances now. He's been with 4 different organizations, so he's been with an eighth of the league.
I thought he was done after New England released him. So
yeah, I did too. We'll see what happens with Antonio Brown, but I mean, I saw a meme. I hate to say it, but I did see a meme. It's like me on New Year's Eve thinking 2022 is going to be a normal year. January 2nd, Antonio Brown in the end zone doing jumping jacks, and it did just describe. I was like, oh my, here we go again. But guys, just want to close out here our losers segment really quickly. We did have some running backs who let us down in week 17. DeAndre Swift, 7 total touches. He obviously wasn't totally healthy. A lot of fantasy managers got fooled. A lot of people in the industry, we had him ranked in the top 20 again. That was a lot, pie on a lot of our faces, I guess. You can't trust the Lions with injuries. We know that. The Lions bone you with injuries. That's what they do. Ronald Jones, though, if there was ever a time to besmirch the name of Ronald Jones, shout out to our guy Herms, who
he's given approval. He says
he gave approval today
now, so it's okay.
I mean, 10 for 21, 1 reception, 1 yard through the air. Bo, if you guys haven't not listened to our DFS tailgate show, get on there. Nate, Bo, Connor, every Sunday. I won a big DFS poll last week. I beat Connor head to head, specifically using these guys' advice against them. But Bo called it bad day for Ronald Jones in week 17. And Cordero Patterson, he has been pretty atrocious lately. RB 39 since week 14. I think this is just a classic version of his body's not used to so many touches a season. He's getting worn down, being used as a running back. Guys, do you disagree with anything I just said? I kind of just wanted to lay it out there. I know we have a lot of left of the show to get to as well.
Nope. I mean,
I definitely started both DeAndre Swift and Ronald Jones on a couple of teams. Luckily, because of people like Najee Harris, Cooper Kupp, other folks like that, I was still able to win. But massively disappointing. I don't know what was going on with DeAndre Swift. Again, I was watching that game very closely. And I love Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is a riot as a person. I've always loved that guy. But I was like, why is Jamal Williams in there basically every snap. So I don't know if DeAndre Swift wasn't ready yet. I mean, Dan Campbell said, "Oh, he's fresh, he's ready," but who knows? Maybe that was coach speak.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. This was something that I thought DeAndre Swift got a goal line carry, and Quandre Diggs, safety for the Seattle Seahawks, made a great tackle, upended him, basically flipped him in the air. It's possible that play was seen and it was like, whoa, okay, let's not get this guy hurt.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
Good point.
So something was up. I mean, he just wasn't in there. He wasn't in there very much. So Cordero Patterson, to me, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm almost in a way not glad. I'm going to sound like a dick, but
I'm sure you're fine.
I'm okay seeing this happen before the season ended because he's always been a guy, even at his height, where I was just like, is this gonna continue? And it did much longer than I thought it would. And he won people weeks, and he was a great pickup for a lot of people for a lot of the year. But as far as looking ahead at where he might get drafted next year, now that I think we've seen this, I think, it's not like he'll go undrafted, but I think people won't get burned like they could have.
Yeah,
with somebody like him, because he's never done this before. He's never had this kind of workload. So, and then who was our last loser? Rojo. Yeah, our buddy Charlie, our buddy Herms did give everyone permission to besmirch the name of Ronald Jones.
I've been besmirching it for a year.
I know.
Team Lenny, baby.
I got sucked in. I got sucked in primarily by the matchup, I think.
The matchup was golden, man. If you can't make it against the New York Jets, I'm sorry, but you can't make it in this league as running back. I mean, he did get injured. He left this game banged up with the ankle, but I'm sorry. But he
had plenty of time before that. So
yeah, exactly. Guys, let's go ahead and move into some Would You Rather presented by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Nate, I think this is the best time of year to get into Underdog Fantasy.
Well, the fantasy season for most people is done. So what that means is it's best ball season, Seth.
Yes, sir.
Best ball season is back. And Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play best ball. You've got contests starting at $3. Get a leg up on all your redraft. Kind of get an idea what ADPs are trending towards. It'll help you research some players. And you could win some money and you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is draft. They're going to have prop picks going on other sports all NFL offseason. They've got NHL, they've got golf, they've got NASCAR, they've got all of it. And the best part, if you've never played, you can sign up with the promo code IBT and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That is $100 free to go out and win more money. It's a great deal, guys. So make sure that you go sign up with the promo code IBT, get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100, and draft some best ball teams. You won't regret it.
Yes, sir. I'm sure we're going to be playing some best ball here in the next week or two, Nate. So we'll put some of those out on our Twitter feed as well if anyone wants to join and play us in some best ball coming up within the next couple weeks. Guys, let's go ahead and move forward in the show with some Would You Rather.
Risky business or that fair to say. Are you that hard on the rise? So chilling with a cold one, even bold one, or hold back? Would you rather? This ain't no simple matter.
You guys know the game Would You Rather. We've played it in high school. You've maybe played it in college, anywhere in between the two as well. I'm going to ask Nate and Scott 2 Would You Rather questions. A couple of them are going to be fantasy football related. 2 of them are going to be non-fantasy football related. So, guys, let's start with the fun of it all. Would you rather have to relive the 2021 fantasy football season, take you back to September, not knowing what's coming, or would you rather have a similar season unfold here in 2022? COVID, some RB injuries heavy at the beginning of the season, and maybe a very disappointing week during the playoffs as well.
I think if I'm reading this right, if reliving this season we're just finishing up means that next season is not going to be like this season, then I'll pick that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Plus, that means I get to go back and redo an entire year, so that sounds fun. Well, entire like 4 months.
But not knowing anything. Still
that's true. I wouldn't know.
Still
But
having
I know
my
others. But what I
still
know
having
about
my
other
Smash
stuff,
Player of the Year being Robert Woods.
yeah, I'll do it over. Yeah, I'd do it over.
I think
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
just
fine
take a
with that.
similar season, to be honest. I think I'm expecting maybe not the same similar season, but like, I mean, my takeaway is here, like, I'm not a 0 RB guy after this season, but, wide receivers is definitely a little more appealing. And, I'm going to be braced for COVID, even in 2022. I know that sounds crazy, but we're going on 2 years of this son of a bitch. So we'll see what happens.
I'll tell you, like, the first Dynasty League, my first startup over the summer, that team made the championship game, which was awesome.
Is
But
that
it was the Moose Leagues.
Oh,
Yeah, it was the very first Moose League, not the one that I'm in with. Anyway,
Anyway,
Superflex, and I had 5 quarterbacks on my bench, and they were all out.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was one of those games where I went into the game like, there's no way I can win this. I had Jordan Howard in my Superflex spot,
Right.
So, but yeah, man.
I couldn't relive this season, honestly. It's been a little too much. I don't think I could go back through it again. But I'll take a fresh slate here in 2022. Guys, a question specifically here for our players that are out in week 18 trying to win a title here. If you're streaming a quarterback, would you be interested in playing Jordan Love or Tua Tagovailoa in week 18? Jordan Love, it looks like he might be getting the start here. Green Bay, they clinched the number 1 seed in week 17. Love, he's going to be playing Detroit. We don't know if Devontae Adams is going to be out there, or Aaron Jones, or even A.J. Dillon for that matter. We're not really sure. Just 11.9 PPR points for him in his last start against Kansas City. But Russ just went off. Your guy, Russell Wilson, Scott, he just went off against Detroit. And Tua Tagovailoa, for a while, he looked like one of the best streaming quarterbacks out there this season. Really let people down here in week 17, just 2.3 PPR points for him against the Titans. QB 21, well below the other 3 rookies still playing out there during these last 3 weeks. Guys, are you interested in playing Tua or Jordan Love this week?
I'm Jordan Love without much hesitation here, to be honest. I mean, for one, it's a week 18 championship game. My home league maintained a week 17 championship game longer than I would have liked. So, I mean, I've played in a fair amount of them, and a lot of times it's about plays like Jordan Love. But in this specific instance, it's not really about Jordan Love. It's more about Tua versus the Patriots, and the Patriots who have to win. So the way the Patriots have been against quarterbacks this year, I don't see Tua. His ceiling and floor are both too low for me. I mean, Jordan Love could go out and score negative points. Sure. We don't have much of a track record with him, but he's got the Lions. And just, you've heard my Tim Tebow story from my week 17 championship way back when. The quarterback I played Tebow over was the fill-in for Aaron Rodgers in week 17.
Matt Flynn, baby.
It was Matt Flynn. So I have a little bit of bias towards the fill-in for Aaron Rodgers the last week of the season going off.
I love bringing up ghost stories for reliving old traumatic experiences for Scott. Nate, are you riding with Jordan Love here?
Oh, absolutely. Something interesting I saw, which I didn't realize, maybe this makes me a bad analyst because I didn't look into it, but in Miami's winning streak, they didn't beat anybody with a record above 500.
Yeah.
They were all teams with losing records. And they're going up against a New England team that needs to win. They're going to get their ass kicked. And Tua's going to be on his back all day long. Jordan Love might not do much better, but I feel like the ceiling for Jordan Love is a little bit higher than Tua this week. So I'm riding Jordan Love. Well,
and I mean, it's true. Like, the Patriots could jump out to a big lead. And, like, in general, that can be potentially a good thing for a quarterback in garbage time. But the Patriots aren't really a team that give up garbage time points. They're not gonna just let it.
Last week, yeah.
What's that?
They have a very good defense.
Yeah, I mean, last week
against T-Law.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't see many routes for Tua to score a lot of points.
Yep.
Nope.
Agreed there with you guys. Last thing I'll note here is Jordan Love might have some experience with these backup wide receivers since he is on the second team here in practice. So it could go his way. I agree with you, though. I'm playing Jordan Love over Tua. Guys, another would you rather question here for 2022. Would you rather have to – so we're talking ethnic food groups here that are often found in the States. Would you guys rather have to only eat Mexican food, Italian food, or Asian food for all of 2022? Nate, I think I know your answer for this one.
I think you know my answer too.
You are the former chef, so lay us down some knowledge, Chef Nate.
Oh, well, I'm eating Mexican food because it's my favorite food. I would eat it every day if I could. Like, and that's the majority of like our on the fly meals because we always have tortillas, we always have refried beans, we always have avocados, we always have cheese. I would eat Mexican every day, all 3 meals for the rest of my life if I could.
I know one Mexican breakfast dish though. I know huevos rancheros. It's the only
Oh, bro, you've got to try. So chilaquiles, just real quick. It's my favorite breakfast.
Okay.
It's corn tortilla. It's basically like breakfast nachos with a fried egg on top. It's got like a sauce on them.
Really?
And cheese, and then beans and a fried egg. Oh, they're
I'll hold
fantastic,
the beans, but I'm good with the rest. That sounds banging.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mexican breakfast out there that's good. Breakfast burritos, bro.
Yeah,
you never had a breakfast burrito?
Yeah, never really got into them.
I've
never had a breakfast burrito from McDonald's.
This is tough. This is tougher for me, I think. For me, it comes down to Mexican or Asian food. But I also love Mexican food. Like pretty much anything. We have some really good taco trucks in our neighborhood. Really good. Street corn. Oh, it's all so good. But I also am a huge fan of Thai food, Indian food, and sushi. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to let you go, Seth, before I make my decision.
So I will say the one I think food type I did not put on this that I should have. I'm a big Greek food fan. I worked at a Greek restaurant throughout college, and Greek food's kind of similar to Italian. It's not totally different, but I'd probably go Italian, man. I'm a sucker for I like salads a lot and pasta, pizza,
taco salad, bro.
If I did go Italian, I would go Mexican, I think, over Asian. I think I'm a little more limited in some of the options with Asian, but yeah, I think I'd go Italian. I just think there's better Italian, just more diversity, I think, with Italian food than some of these other foods. Like, I like Mexican food, but I don't think my stomach a month in would be very good.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna make it three different answers. So I'm gonna go with Asian food, and part of the reason for that is actually the opposite of what. Hey, Brad,
what's up, buddy?
The opposite of what you just said, Seth. In that Asian that's actually way more general than the other two. Way more general. Yeah. So because of that, because I could choose between sushi or Thai food or Chinese food or Indian food, I'm going with that.
I did have a roommate in college. He was from China, and he could whip up some really cool Asian breakfast dishes in a dorm. So if he can do that, there probably are maybe some good Asian breakfast foods out there. I believe that.
So I worked with a guy from Pakistan. He was he was here on political asylum, and his mom would send him with these authentic, homemade Pakistani, bulk lunches for all of us. Oh, dude. That's some of the best food I've ever had. Like the rice. Oh, if I could be guaranteed her cooking.
Yeah.
I might pick that for the entire year. Cause it's some of the hottest food I've ever had too. Blows anything Mexican I've ever had out of the water. So I guess I would go Asian if I could have that. Homemade's always the best though, man.
A lot of caviar.
Someone.
Food.
Yep.
Yeah. Guys, last one here for you. Would you rather, keeper question, would you rather keep Saquon Barkley for his 2021 ADP or keep Kyle Pitts for his 2021 ADP? RB34 finish for Saquon Barkley. He was the RB7, the 9th pick overall in redraft leagues. Obviously fell short of that by a wide mile. Was very disappointing here at the end of the season. And then Kyle Pitts, He was drafted as a tight end 4, finished as a tight end 5, 46 overall, drafted, just 3 spots ahead of Mark Andrews, which is crazy. But Saquon Barkley, Kyle Pitts in 2022. Scott, I think I know your answer, but go ahead with this one.
Mine. There's no hesitation. It's Kyle Pitts at that draft slot over Saquon at 9. I've heard, there's been rumblings obviously all season about which team Russell Wilson might go to. And the Giants I've heard as one of them as a potential, it's all just speculation. So maybe, I guess that's a good question, but Kyle Pitts, like I said, he's kind of just flown under the radar, I think, because of the insane amount of hype he had coming into the season. So when somebody like that comes into the season with that type of hype, still puts up 1,000 yards as a rookie tight end, which is crazy. But he didn't. What's that?
Very quietly, he put up 1,000.
It was very quiet, and it's because Matt Ryan is not really seen as a high slinging quarterback. The Falcons weren't really that great, and it really was hindered by a fairly anomalous amount of touchdowns. As far as if you just compare touchdown percentage over a certain amount of time for tight ends, touchdowns divided by targets, he should have had like 5, just if you're looking at it like that. So
how many did he have total?
1.
Oh my God. Was it really 1?
So he didn't really have, he had a couple of blow up games, where he blew it up fantasy points wise.
Wow.
But other than that, he was just kind of steady. He didn't kill you, but he didn't blow up for you. So I just think he's kind of unfairly. Maybe it's not unfair. Maybe we were all way too high on him. Maybe that's our fault. But I think he's gonna be great next year. So if I can keep him, what'd you say, 46 overall?
Yeah, 46, end of the 4th round.
Yeah. No, I'm that all the way. I'd rather use my first round pick on somebody other than Barkley.
Nate?
Same. I have nothing to add. Scott said it all. But yeah, no, Pitts all the way.
Word. All right, guys, let's move into some sure things, sleepers of the week, presented by Stevens Quality Barbering Services. Guys, in between fam, I've been going to Stevens Quality Barbering Services for about the last 7 years now. It's got me through the end of high school, got me through college, got me through my young professional career. Always looking sharp for those big occasions. If you're in Western PA, Central PA, wherever, go to Noah. He's going to get you hooked up in Kerwinsville, PA. Go to visit stevens-quality.gembook.com. Book your appointment today. Get in with Noah. You're going to have a quality haircut at a quality price, have a quality conversation, and a quality experience all the way around. Stevens Quality Barbering Services, baby. Kerwinsville, PA. You guys know where to find it. Let's go ahead and get into some sure things, sleepers of the week.
It's the sure thing. Sleepers of the week.
All right, guys, before we jump into sure things, sleepers of the week, I wanted to wait till the end of the show, but we do have a lot of our usual YouTube interactors and viewers. And I did just want to give a shout out to everyone who's tuned in throughout the entire 2021 season. The support has been absolutely unreal, whether it be on social media, on YouTube, Apple, iTunes, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to thank everyone who's tuned in throughout the year, listen to us talk shop fantasy football, listen to us talk lifestyle, life advice. And we really do appreciate all the support, hitting that subscribe button on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it may be. It really does help us when we go to acquire sponsors and everything we do in the off season. So thank you so much. As a young entrepreneur, I cannot thank you guys enough. Guys, let's go ahead and get some sure things sleepers of the week. Last week we hit on a couple. Jen, she recommended Boston Scott. If you fired up Boston Scott this week, you were happy. I can't even remember who. I don't even remember who I said fire up, but it did hit. I remember that as well. But guys, Nate, starting out with you here, man. Who do you have as your sure thing sleeper of the week?
So I like Malik Turner this week. Michael Gallup's down. He's had some up weeks. He had a 17.5 point day in week 16 last week against Washington. after Gallup went down. And then week 9 against Denver, he had 17.65 PPR points. When he's given an opportunity, he scores points. When they feature him and use him and throw him the ball, he scores points. With Michael Gallup out, I think he's probably going to be featured over Cedric Benson alongside, obviously, Cooper and Lamb. But I think he's a part of this offense. They can't really run the ball. I mean, Zeke's been terrible this season. Tony Pollard's been iffy at best.
Yeah.
Since like the first 2 weeks, because it was Zeke. I saw a number today that I looked at, I was like, that should be shocking to me how bad it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
So this offense runs through the air. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. They're pushing for a better playoff spot. I think that there's a really good chance Malik Turner goes off this week.
I like that. I think you could be a good dart throw DFS play as well. I'm sure you guys will
100%.
probably talk about that on Sunday morning with Bo and Connor. But yeah, Nate, I know this is probably a deeper cut one. This is probably if you need a wide receiver 4, maybe a second flex. But I think this is one that could actually pay off. My only question is what is going on with Cedric Wilson? I kind of thought he was the guy. I had him stashed in a lot of dynasty leagues, but Malik Turner's getting that snap share right now. Mike
McCarthy, man.
Dude,
that's all it is.
Also, you said Cedric Benson.
Yeah, no, I was going to point that out.
Yeah, I love Cedric Benson, though. That man carried me in a couple of leagues a couple of years. So.
I love Cedric Benson, man.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys that came back from the dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Scott, who do you have? I think it's also another player who came back from the dead this year.
Yeah, this is a player that I honestly didn't really realize was on an NFL team earlier in the season, and that's Daunted Foreman. Probably not quite as much of a sleeper now that it's week 18. He's a guy that if you have, you're probably starting. But I just think he's in for a big week. I don't know how much I buy into revenge game narratives, but he's up against the Texans, the team that drafted him, and he's been solid. Not every single game, but when Derrick Henry went out, he's kind of taken over that role, kind of the power back. Put up 100 plus against the Patriots, which is never easy to do. And yes, he gets the Houston matchup this week, and Tennessee's sitting in the 1 seed. They win, they have the 1 seed. Yeah. So I think that they win handily, and I think that Daunted Foreman could benefit from a fantasy standpoint of a Tennessee team winning handily against a team that has been dead last against running backs over the last 5 games. Right.
Love it. Nate, who you got for us?
You already
went.
Cedric Benson. You think Cedric Benson's going to have a good game?
Malik Turner.
Brain is a little mushy, so forgive me on that one.
Dude, tell me about it. I had a sick kid all day.
I got to say, Malik Turner sounds like kind of that perfect last week of the season guy.
He really does.
I'm going to say week 17 because that's what we've said our whole lives, but perfect week 18 guy.
Like your Rashard Perrymans of past.
Yeah, seasons. Just like a guy that could just hit.
Yeah. Ruben
Seth, I really like yours.
Thank you. This is a guy I've been playing. I picked him up in a couple dynasty leagues a couple weeks ago. I picked him up and rode him in Scott Fishbowl all the way to the semis, and that's Braxton Barrios.
He smashed last week.
Yeah, coming off a career day, guys, 24.7 PPR points for Braxton Barrios here. He's wide receiver 17 over the last month. No Michael Carter here. And guys, I said this a couple weeks ago on both the show and in my Start Sin Seth column. Jameson Crowder is not Jameson Crowder anymore. Nope. Braxton Barrios has shown in any opportunity he gets, he is an efficient player. No Tre'Davious White here against the Bills. We know there's going to be some junk time for Barrios. I think it's just, the Bills haven't looked like a terrible secondary, but I think Braxton Barrios is going to see enough garbage time. I'm not worried about Elijah Moore coming off the IR if he does this week. I think Braxton Barrios, he won me a couple of DFS games last week as well. So the DFS season long this week, I think Barrios is a sound wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I just wrote about it.
I agree.
So.
And he's even someone I would we're going to talk about here to round out the show players we're excited about for 2022. And if I didn't have another player I wanted to talk about, Barrios was kind of the player I also wanted to feature. He is an unrestricted free agent here. They might bring him back to the Jets because we don't know what the status of Jameson Crowder is. I think he's out of New York here after this season. But Barrios is a guy whether it's Bill Belichick up there in New England or someone's going to grab themselves a really nice slot receiver here in Barrios this offseason. So make sure he's on those dynasty rosters.
He stays in New York.
You were confident about that. You were confident about that earlier.
I know.
We'll see what happens to him. Guys, let's go ahead and round it out here with some in the scope. We're going to talk about 2022 players we're hoping that impress.
I had the stars in my sights.
Requesting permission to engage.
In the scope.
All right, guys. So in the scope, it's our way of usually finding waiver wire targets a week early. This time, we're going to talk about 2022 players a year early. And I want to just set the scene. Normally, guys, I hand it off to you here, but I'm pretty passionate about my in the scope candidates this week. So, let's just talk about it. Let's rewind, because I'm going to be honest. We have receipts. There's podcasts back somewhere if you want to listen to it. But I thought the Eagles were going to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. I thought it was going to be them, the Jaguars, and the Texans at the bottom of this thing, maybe the Lions. But, I mean, sure, Jalen Hurts hasn't had any signature wins, as a lot of people have pointed out to me on Twitter recently. But what Jalen Hurts has done is taken a bottom 5 roster in the NFL and taken them to the playoffs. It hasn't been super sexy at times. 16 TDs for him, 9 interceptions, only 3,100 yards through the air. He still needs to improve there. But guys, we also saw 784 rushing yards on 139 attempts, 10 TDs on the ground. Those were Lamar Jackson almost type of numbers. It's a little bit step down, but it's better than where Kyler Murray's been a couple of the last few seasons. Mm-hmm. And guys, let's be honest here. The Eagles' offense is not that great. Their line was absolutely atrocious last season. Jason Kelsey has really returned to form. A couple of those other guys on that offensive line returned to form despite losing a couple of those key pieces to injury earlier in the season. But, I mean, guys, he really has looked solid, and Devonta Smith is their only wide receiver who is worth a damn. Jalen Reagor looks like a huge bust right now.
Huge.
Just for instance here, Devonta Smith has accounted for 27.8% of Jalen Hurts' yards, 31% of his passing touchdowns as well. So I think if they can get this kid a wide receiver in the draft, maybe sign a veteran or two at the wide receiver position as well. He's throwing to Greg Ward out here. Nothing against Greg Ward, but it's just Greg Ward. And
it's not a name that excites you.
Exactly, man. I mean, I'm just saying, if he can get a couple better wide receivers, I think Dallas Goedert is overpaid now. I'll be honest about that, but he's still he's still a solid tight end. When you actually compare these 16 starts Jalen Hurts has had compared to Lamar Jackson's, they're eerie similar. Do I think he's as good of a passer? No. But could he get there? Yes, if he works on his craft. And Jalen Hurts, man, he has been doubted, whether it's been Alabama, Oklahoma, here in the NFL, a second-round pick. I believe in this effing kid, man. I believe in him, and I think he's going to be, he'll probably be maybe a top 6 or 7 QB in ADP next year, but I still think he's going to be worth the draft price, and I think I want to have him on more rosters than I did in 2021.
He's currently QB 7 points per game, ahead of Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and then a bunch of scrubs. But, I don't know what else this guy has to do. I mean, no one is saying he's the best quarterback in the league. No one is saying he should be the MVP. No one is saying that all the credit for the Eagles' record goes to Jalen Hurts.
Apparently, I'm saying that. Yeah, that's what people
all people are saying is that he's a good quarterback. He's a good fantasy quarterback. He might not be the best throwing quarterback ever, but I mean, for fantasy purposes, he's got that rushing floor. And what he's done with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, basically, granted, the Eagles have run it they flipped the script such a 180-degree turn from passing to rushing over the course of the season. But even then, like I said, QB 7 points per game, ahead of those quarterbacks I named. So him going as QB 7 in next year's drafts, I'm all good with that.
Same.
He's the overall QB 8.
Yeah, in total points, yeah.
So, like,
Yeah. Nate, who you got for us here in 2022, man?
All right. So this is a little deeper than Jalen Hurts. It's Trey McKinney. So if we're being honest, so first of all, I wrote about him in my column that came out today. Second of all, I may or may not have drafted him a couple places because of his name.
Same. Yeah.
It's like McKinney. Okay.
Guilty as charged.
Like, didn't love the talent. I didn't really know what he was. I watched some film on him. Didn't feel amazing about it. He's had 7 targets this season. He's caught 6 of those. Most recently against the Broncos this past week, 17. 3 targets, 3 catches. He gets his hands on the ball. He's talented. He's a decent route runner. He seems to have some sort of rapport with Justin Herbert. But the most important part is that Donald Parham and Jared Cook are both unrestricted free agents going into the 2022 season.
Parham is a exclusive like an ERFA. I will.
That's not what Spotrac said. Spotrac said he was unrestricted.
I edited your column and I went and checked that, so I think it is an ERFA.
Fair.
But regardless,
which is fine. But they're both free agents, and I don't think I really don't think that they're interested in bringing either back.
I agree.
They took McKinney. He's a 4th round tight end. You don't see most tight ends go number 4 overall or ever. So forget about, and Freiermuth was a 1st round talent. Fair enough. Or a 2nd round talent. Fair enough. He was not I like McKinney's talent. I don't care that he was drafted in the 4th round. I think that there's a good chance that he could be very good. Is his ceiling as high as Kyle Pitts? Absolutely not. Or Patty Muth? Definitely not. But could he fill some sort of like tight end 6, 7, 8 role where that's where he kind of sits and you're still getting enough points out of him where it makes sense to start him? Yeah, over a guy like Irv Smith or Ricky Seals-Jones or Logan Thomas when he's healthy. I think he could be on par with some of those guys.
When I think Nate, more than even the talent here, it's the situation he could find himself in here. I mean, if you take Jared Cook's numbers and you take Donald Parham's numbers from this year and you smash them together, they're decent. But like we've seen tight ends in their 2nd or 3rd year. Dawson Knox is a great example. Just a great situation for Dawson Knox. Yes, he was a talented player. He beat out Jacob Hollister for that position. They didn't really have much at tight end coming into the season, the Buffalo Bills, but just a great situation with a great quarterback, high volume passing offense. They're going to go for it on 4th down no matter where they are. So, Nate, I think you're onto something here, man. I think if you're in that dynasty league, he could be out there on free agency, scoop him up. If not, maybe throw out a 5th or 4th round pick, or like an over the hill veteran, like you said in your column, Nate.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that call. I think McKinney's one of those guys I'm picturing as drafts unfold, like redraft drafts. Like I always have a couple of people later in the draft I'm targeting. McKinney's probably going to be one of those guys.
Yep. Yeah, he could be in for a big year unless they go out and sign somebody, but I don't know who they'd sign.
But to your point, he's not going to cost much.
Nope.
It's getting out before with a guy like that.
Yep. Good call there, Nate. Scott, round us out here, man. Who you got?
All right, I'm going to go with a guy that IBT kind of planted their flag on back during the rookie season. And that's Michael Carter.
Yep.
The not the cornerback, but the running back for the New York Jets. Every time I look it up on Pro Football Focus, I pick the wrong one.
How about it? Yeah.
Or sorry, Pro Football Reference. So, and the reason I'm very excited about him also has to do with kind of a risk reward that I foresee being the case when draft season comes around. He did not go off this year. He did not by any means take the fantasy world by storm this year, and he plays for the Jets, but he still finished as the RB24, at least as of now, RB24 in points per game. And he battled, he missed some games. He had a few pop games. He had a 14 target game. That was a little bit anomalous, I think.
Like white baby.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he showed enough, in my opinion, to, I think, start next season as not the bell cow, but the quote unquote lead back for the New York Jets. Plus, they have like 30 picks in the first round this year. So they're going to be adding to their team. I know that very well because one of them is a former Seahawks first round pick.
Yes,
But so the reason I'm excited is because I think he's a really good running back. And I think the Jets are on the upswing as opposed to the downswing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to be a perfect candidate if you do go a little bit heavier on wide receiver earlier in your draft, or if you do the anchor RB thing where you take a running back in the first round, then load up on receivers. I think he's kind of a perfect target for once you get past I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know where his ADP is going to be. All I know is that I don't think he wowed enough to be like a third rounder.
Probably
you know what I mean?
Fifth rounder, probably fourth.
Yeah. So, and I think he's
still too high.
But I think he's where he's going to be. Where he's going to be in that kind of past the early rounds. I think he's a perfect target as a running back for next year.
Yeah.
I'm on the Michael Carter train. I've been on the Michael Carter train since before the draft. I love Michael Carter's talent. He's going to make the New York Jets very happy. Scott, great call.
Yep. I agree with you there, man. He proved it on the ground. He proved it through the air. He's got what it takes. We'll see if he can put it together here in 2022. Guys, speaking of 2022, we were going to be here throughout the offseason. We're going to continue to go every week throughout the month of January. Then we're going to slow things down, go every other week. We'll keep you updated what's going on with the show, what's going on with the site. We'll have a publication schedule out for the offseason here within the next month. But hang with us, guys. We're going to take all the data, all the sample sizes that we've seen over the last, 17 weeks now, and we're going to pile that together. We're going to get you the best information we can. We're going to continue to give you some lifestyle advice along the way as well of the feel-good variety. Nate, Scott, it has been an eventful 17 weeks, to say the least, my friends. Nate, can you round us out with any final thoughts, words of appreciation, any advice as we head into Week 18 and the offseason?
Oh, well, appreciate the break. For most of you, you don't have a championship.
Yeah.
Fantasy football's fun, and the season's over. So unless you're an analyst who's trying to kick out content, which most of you probably aren't, take a break, spend some time with your family, have fun, enjoy the upcoming spring and summer where it gets warm again.
Let's go.
It's coming. Yeah. Just a few more months. Enjoy yourselves and check out some of our content. We're going to be doing some non-football stuff that you might enjoy.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny because winter literally started 2 weeks ago. But I'm looking forward to the summer as well and the hot and the warmer days. I always forget that because it seems like winter starts in late October. But I want to echo what Seth said earlier and the appreciation to anybody that's watching right now, people in the chat, anybody who checks out all of our content at IBT, anybody who reads my column or watches my goofy ass YouTube show, Pulp Fantasy, or just interacts on Twitter in general. It's, I joined IBT a little over a year ago, and man, it's been such a life changer for me, this whole experience. So, and that only happens, as a group, as Cooter Doodle would say, we're in this together, everybody. We're in this together. So yeah, take a break, do what you got to do, but just know I have big plans for this off season. This is my first time going into an off season after having paid attention like I just did for 17, 18 weeks.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of plans to throw a big pile of data on the floor and start sifting through it. So like Seth said, we're going to keep pushing out content, just not quite as often. And then where you can find me. I'll be on Twitter way more than I should be. So thanks, everybody.
I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, Scott, I appreciate your guys' help throughout the season, helping our viewers, our listeners get through these weeks the best we can, whether it be life related, whether it be fantasy football related. We're always here for you guys. I want to shout out our guy who makes all the music here for the In Between Fantasy Football podcast, Nate Miller at ISM on all your streaming platforms. His music gets me pumped for these shows, guys. I love sitting in there for the theme song, the drops. So thank you, Nate. Also thank our guy Kyle behind the scenes of
shout out Kyle.
Well. Yeah, Kyle. I mean, every week he's editing this podcast, getting it cleaned up, put out on the audio waves. So Kyle, we appreciate your help in the back end. And just thank you for all the support, man. All the support for everyone who's been out there this entire season, not just this season, but last season as well. We're rolling up on the 2-year anniversary of In Between Media here in June, and it has been an absolutely wild ride. I'm going to talk about it more here in some upcoming calls, but this industry, this journey has given me a place in life. I think it's given us all a place. We found each other through this, some of our best friends. So I'll never take it for granted. I'll never take this wild ride and all our listeners and viewers for granted. Thank you guys for the continued support. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It means the world for us. Hit that subscribe button wherever you guys are, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it may be. We're going to be back throughout the month of January every week to talk to you guys, and we'll slow things down. But until then, guys, keep it in between. Good luck here in Week 18.
The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
The one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.
Do what you can to become a better person.